you could always ask me to pause. I'll pause for you. That's fine too. Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Oh boy, fun times. Welcome to Smudcast number 252. This is, oh boy, what is this title? What is this thing? How do we describe this? Sexual diversity, how a queer character made Persona 4 great, extra credits. This is a 9-year-old video, March 2012. So extra credits back in the day. I don't know if this is the original extra credits guy talking about stuff, but
it's probably the
If it's that
original.
old?
It is 2012.
okay, yeah. So the guy who's less painful, less fascist, less talking about fascism rather. So that's always a bonus. But it is another extra credits show, so buckle up.
I think your first assertion was correct as well.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Already starting off strong with this title.
Good. Extra credits were good with their extra history thing, but then it fall out.
I don't know. I stopped watching them a long time ago, and they're always a joke. They're always extremists now. Hard to take seriously, but because it's a topic I enjoy, I like the Persona series a lot. I've played all of them except for Innocent Sin and 5, and 4 is my favorite. So I know a little bit about this game.
I know a lot of Persona 4 and Persona 5 because people talk a lot in the Discord, and I actually wanted to play the game.
Well, I just was told by one of you guys that it's come out on PC. So fantastic. You can download it, buy it that way. All optimized for PC. And I'm still waiting for them to do that for Persona 5 because it's the most popular Persona game ever. And I'm sure it's the most stylish one as well. So, yes, the joys of Persona. I don't know if we're going to give a history lesson about Persona, the Shin Megami Tensei series. Back in the day, I played the original one. I thought this was brilliant, a little strange, a little weird. And I got hooked on it. Then Persona 2 came out. And that was a female protagonist with these two, she was dual-wielding pink guns. Can't remember what guns they were, but, you know, very strange to have a hero character running around in the middle of the night shooting people or shooting shadows, whatever you want to call them, with pink guns when your best friend is a goth boxing chick. I mean, it's just like, wow. Just crazy ideas, crazy designs. All the persona, the manifestations of your soul come out. They look amazing. So it's always been an eclectic, cool, niche game, but super hardcore JRPG. But then we jump to Persona 3. That's where the whole thing changes. And this is where people get Persona popularized because it becomes a dating sim / waifu simulator / high school simulator, social link. Like all these things that you are known for in Persona series came from 3. And for me, 4 just refined it just the right way.
JoJo. You can see that JoJo influenced a lot of this.
It is super JoJo. Yes, exactly. There's so much JoJo in Persona. Even the idea of the persona is essentially the stands in JoJo. So it's brilliant. And they make a lot of references in 5 with JoJo. So take for that what you will if you like JoJo, but it's a lot different than your experience watching JoJo. But anyway, Persona 4 is my favorite.
It's less bizarre.
Sorry?
Way.
What was that?
It's less bizarre than JoJo.
It is certainly less crazy. It's still pretty weird. I mean, if you're talking about going to the midnight hour or the midnight channel or whatever you want to call Persona 5's version of that is pretty creepy and weird. But you're always going into the recesses of another person's mind, changing something by defeating their persona construct and changing the world for the better, hopefully. So lots of cool ideas in Persona games that are hard to understand. Anyway, let's get started. We got 6.5 minutes. Here's a donation from Tall Person, always a great name. Thank you, Mr. Tall Person. Here, I don't often catch these live. Have some money. I will try to be quiet as I watch this, but I've seen the extra credits vid, and it irked me to say the least. All right. Okay. Let's get going, guys. Okay, so already we have a problem.
Hold on, the
intro.
video's not playing for me. Let me see if I can figure this out.
All right, we're in 8 seconds. Just refresh your screen. You should be fine.
Now try another browser if you have one.
Yeah. Does it say 8 seconds?
There we go.
All right, great. So
Yeah.
if you guys don't know Persona 4, there's 2 characters that have ways of covering up their sexuality or their sexual identity. There's one called Naoto, and there's one called Kanji. And the only difference between the two that I can see is Naoto purposely covers up her sexual or her identity because she wants to be accepted by the police force, because she's a detective, and because she's a young lady, like teenager, and they don't see her as a valuable source of information or a confidant, so she has to appear to, because she comes from a line of detectives who are all masculine. So
Yeah, they don't take her seriously because she's a teenager.
Right. But she's also this super genius girl who carries a gun. And if you don't know anything about the gun laws in Japan, it takes like a year to get licensed. And you have to go for testing every year so that you can keep your license. So for her to have a gun, which I don't even think is legal, like you have to be an adult to have it. But she has.
I don't think a teenager can have a gun in Japan too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a legal thing, but apparently that's her weapon. So interesting stuff. Maybe they made some rules because she's a detective and she's in dangerous scenarios. But anyway, she is disguising herself as a male, so she's accepted by the police force. And the other character is Kanji, which is a very complicated character, but he's awesome in that he has feelings that may be homosexual, but they never manifest as homosexual. He instead, it's showcased he likes adorable things. Interestingly enough, like Naoto, because Naoto is a small little girl, but he's confused because even though he's attracted to Naoto, he doesn't know he's a she. And then it's revealed it's a she, and he's like, oh, that makes sense. And he likes her more as a friend, which is great. So
Naoto or Naito?
Naoto. I don't know how to... Naoto, yeah.
Naoto. So her story is the classic cross-dressing, not for fetish reasons or anything, or trans thing, but to get the job she wants.
Yes.
It's very specifically that in Japan, because she's a kid and a girl, she can't be a detective.
Yeah. So it's just a disguise to have the profession she wants.
Yeah.
And Kenji is just learning to accept that he likes cute things, and it doesn't matter if the other guys think he's gay or not.
Right. He is, I would say, one of those artists, because he makes stuff that's cute. Like, that's the interesting thing about Kanji, is he doesn't care about what it is. Like, he doesn't care about, he cares about, does it make you feel adorable and cute, and what is that thing? What is that? He's trying to capture that feeling, and I think that's what he's all about. He's not about sexuality per se, even though his shadow self is kind of like that. But again, the shadows in Persona series are always distorted versions of your innermost desires. So he accepts that part of himself, and he goes on with life and saying, well, I'm not into, even throughout the series, he's not into guys, which is fascinating. So anyway, it's a more mature look of sexuality, I would say. But even Persona 2 had very dark themes. It was a dark fantasy in a contemporary setting. It was very goth.
And Persona 5 talks about the justice system in Japan, which is brutal. Really brutal.
There's all kinds of great scenes in Persona 5 regarding sexuality and characters being shy, and homosexuality, which is the stereotype of the two homosexual males who are always hitting on Ryuji, and it's become a running gag that you sort of leave him alone because you got stuff to do, and he gets assaulted by these two guys. So and they saw that as offensive because I don't know reasons. Well, not they, but the left-leaning public, because oh no, you're making outrageously homosexuals look bad. It's like, yeah, that's the point. They're supposed to be seen as these silly fellows to poke fun at. So they didn't like that because, I don't know, Not funny.
Every time I see those scenes used in the SJW propaganda pieces, I'm reminded that I should play God Hand.
God Hand is a cool game. You're right.
I know, but it scares me, and I don't have it.
It's fairly old too.
Yeah, probably emulator stuff, but oh god.
All right.
That's one I keep meaning to get to, but my PS3 broke, so I lost my own copy of it, which is unfortunate.
Oh, there's so many great games.
In general, so I'm not except for the general topic. I'm not too useful here because I'm not familiar with most Sony main platform games because I was a Nintendo and PC kid.
Yeah. Well,
with some exceptions when I had a roommate with other consoles, but that's select things. Like I still hope, for example, that there will someday be a port of Lost Odyssey.
Okay, well, if you know...
No, not Lost Odyssey.
If you know...
The Last Story. The Last Story? No, Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey.
Lost Odyssey, yeah, you're right. If you know, Atlas is the same company who makes Dragon's Crown, Catherine Full Body just came out a few years ago. What else? Devil Summoner. What else? Shin Megami series. Demon
Atlas,
Souls.
Lots of things.
Oh, they make all kinds. But
be here all day.
Yeah, the more popular ones, like the biggest one I remember was 13 Sentinels, or Aegis Rim. That was a big thing. I thought that was really cool. Oh, geez. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. But if any of these sound like Odin Sphere, like that should pop up really soon in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the guys who publish that. So and they play around with sexuality here and there. They're not scared of telling stories like that, and that's the great thing. So we have all these wonderful, wonderful games from Atlas that feel very Japanese. Anyway, here's Joe Crazy. Thanks, Joe. Oh man, extra credits. I did ask for this, and I definitely chose this. You did? All right.
Yeah, he voted. He voted for this on the Discord.
Okay, Joe. Thank you, sir.
I like the comment from Toasty Danny just below that that reads, Naoto read a lot of detective novels that had male leads, so she assumed that only male detectives will be accepted in the police force, so that's partly why she dresses up as such. Is that correct?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah, they do mention that, but it's also because Japan is just is a very conservative where men have trouble or women have trouble getting into the police force at all. And this game took place in 2011, I think. 2000. So came out in 2011. So even like there's been some progress in the last decade or so, but even then. So that's, I mean, yeah, it's not wrong, but it's not quite what I would attribute it to.
It's not everything. It's not only that.
Okay, so let's see what they have to say about sexual diversity.
A while back, we promised we would talk more about the varieties of diversity in games, and since then we've been mulling over the best way to do that. When we put out that original introductory episode, we got a lot of responses from people who weren't convinced that diversity is really that big an issue for games. Why should I care about diversity in my games? This isn't nearly as big a problem as you make it out to be. Who cares if you're playing an Italian plumber?
I don't think it's even a problem. I really don't think there's an issue.
I don't think it was ever a problem because everything's always been covered. People make the games they found interesting to make and fun to make, and that means that just a random thing comes out. And that doesn't require some top level authority or ideology to push in a certain direction.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with the messages that they've been getting. I don't know. I've never really understood this whole, representation is super important, all that kind of thing. It just, I don't know. I never really cared.
And I'll be honest with you. Because I'm a bit stuck with the trans topic. everything the social justice ideology makes in regards to we need to make stories about the trans, they're all shit. They're all absolute disgusting bullshit, have rarely anything to do with the actual problems and thoughts and pains or longings of people with gender dysphoria. And on the other hand, you have, and that reaches back at least into the 90s, even in regards to visual novels, that there are, even if it's, and that's even when it's ecchi or hentai games, have better stories with characters who go through sex changes that struggle with in whatever way it goes. And the Japanese could do it naturally. But the social justice people, they have no clue, because they also are not interested in what people actually go through. I think they just lack so much empathy that they cannot imagine what problems of other people really are like. And that's why we see these weirdos who pretend to be something that they don't even understand.
It's kind of funny to see a JRPG bend the knee and say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do a female Eskimo black woman as a main character. And you're like, why would they, like, what would cause a writer or creator to say, let's do that? Like, it just wouldn't make sense. The best we get are Japanese girls who have a certain style called genguro, which they look like or try to look like a certain style of person based off race. That's with a lot of makeup. So they have ways around these things, but it's ultimately still going to be a Japanese story or a Japanese cultured story. And no one seems to mind that. I don't care that I'm playing a male or female character in the Persona series. It doesn't bother me. In fact, in Persona 3 Fez, what was it, mobile or just Fez? I think it was mobile. You can play as a female main character. Still a silent protagonist, slightly different personality, and different dating options. That's about it. So
yeah. And when you design a game, it's you at least that's what I would do. I'd start with the game with the gameplay as game design, and not with or maybe the world building. That can also be interesting. So, but one of these two, I wouldn't start with the character in the sense of the main character, in the sense of that I'd start with what race and sexuality is the main character, and then I'd start to build the game around that. That is silly. That the focus is so wrong that all important elements fall under the bus. And that's probably why many of the products of the ideologues fall flat. Not just in video games, but in other media as well.
All right. It looks like, I don't know if that's the main character from, is that Vincent from Catherine? I can't quite tell.
I don't know. I just see Lara Croft, and it's the better older version, I think. She still has a figure.
I would say that's the icon for Vincent, but I could be wrong. Hey, how's it going?
Oh, that you mean. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
I'm just cranking up your volume just in case we can't hear you, but say anything and that'd be great. Say hello, actually. That's a great start.
Hello.
All right. You could speak a bit louder, that'd be great, but other than that, we can hear you, yes.
I don't actually have I don't have a good microphone, so.
Okay, all right. But you are an expert,
that-
or at least you know about Persona series or Persona 4, which we're talking about. If you would ever so please jump into the watch together with the link right there in chat, and we could all watch together and get along and pause at the same time and all that jazz.
And share popcorn.
Where in chat?
And just so you guys don't know, the person to my exact left is Sir Axelot, and next to their exact left is Nickelcon. Nickelicon? There you go.
You can just call me.
You have an extra Discord channel DM thing opened, and that's where the link is in.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, here's Strawman. Thank you, sir. Extra credits, always wanting the D. I don't know. I don't think that's specifically their requirement. They are pushing a narrative, as they always have, and they're always like, oh, why can't we have this in games? Why can't we do that? Or they analyze something as offensive because their ideology says so. I see it.
And
Like saying Necrons could be good.
Oh.
And the answer is super simple. Just make that game you want that is perfectly what you want. Of all the people, you with the big YouTube channels, who probably have advertisements and sponsors and all of that, you should have the resources to start a small project that does the things that you want.
Oh, that
Or
reminds
mod
me.
something.
That reminds me. I don't know if LitDev has done this yet, but he is trying to start his own visual novel. If anyone has any knowledge or development skills in the visual novel kit, or there's the one called RenP or Python, or Unity 3D, give me a message. I'll send it over to LitDev. He'll probably want to talk to you. So, yeah, great, cool stuff. Remembered that. Oh, geez.
Join the Discord and DM him if you know how to program these
Yeah.
games.
Send me a hello on Discord. You in the comments below. Whatever works for you. Anyway, we'll just keep going. All right, Strawman. Also, YouTube would let me join your last stream. Would not. Would or would not? It sounds like it would not. Why not? What happened? That has never happened before with someone. What happened to my channel that YouTube wouldn't let you join? That's weird. Huh. Okay. Well, give me a message and I'll see if it's something on my side. That's weird. I've never heard of that. Okay. So is everyone in the watch together? Are we okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Okay,
Yep.
great. We're at 31
I'm at
seconds.
31 seconds.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's go.
A grave robbing bimbo. What difference does it make? A grave robbing bimbo. What difference does it make? to the
Hey,
game?
that's
Well, we're going to
misogynist.
try to answer that today. We aren't going to discuss diversity by going into some high-minded moralizing lecture, though. Instead, we're just going to talk about games.
Wait, I'm. This is just rotating in my head now. I wouldn't call Lara Croft a bimbo at all. She has a sexy figure, but she's not
She's
sex
never-
crazed and dumb. Bimbos are sex crazed and dumb. Lara Croft is someone you don't mess with.
Yeah, she's never been portrayed as any kind of like idiot or anything like that. She's
She's a
smart
badass.
and tough and knows what she's doing, and she's a pretty competent archaeologist. So
Yeah. She is,
I find it. You can't really call her a bimbo beyond her figure, which is
Yeah, that's
kind of
that is actually
incredibly
reducing.
sexist.
Yeah, that is what is actually reducing to just her sex appeal, to just her boobs, and it's mainly just her boobs. That's why they reduced her boob size over the years again and again. Although the original was just to be a fun, more action-packed Indiana Jones game with a female protagonist.
yeah, that's how you should
That
see her
was
as,
the main
as a
idea.
female Indiana Jones with guns. Like she's really lethal and scary.
Yep.
All right, just rewinding it back.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the video, but I think we jumped a few minutes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
I think
Moralizing lecture, though.
that was probably my
Instead,
fault.
we're just going to talk about games that couldn't be made or would be patently worse if they didn't have diverse characters. Since we're all, apparently, masochists here at Extra Credit, we've decided to tackle what many of you seem to find the toughest and most unpalatable subject first, sexual diversity in games. And to do that,
That is not
So-
a complex, difficult subject to cover. I don't know why.
Yeah. My first question to
I
that
think
would
it's
be, what do
actually
you
pretty
mean?
simple.
What do you mean with sexual diversity? And the main idea that came to my mind it would be heterosexual characters and homosexual
I
characters.
guess.
If you want throw a bi in that, but that's
Yeah, I'm
the
trying.
main point is hetero and homosexual.
Yeah,
But is that what they mean, or do they mean like men and women?
Yeah, that could also be the case.
well, the worst it gets
But most games
in
have that.
the worst it gets in any of the Persona series is, well, maybe Persona 5 it gets a little more risque, but there's always some sort of a transvestite or a man dressing up as a woman, but that's a side character. It's always off to the side. It's not a big deal. Or like with Kanji, there's that possible is Shadow Self, I guess you could say, but he's just homosexual, that version. So no, everything else is pretty much a joke, or seen as a part of their character, like with what's her name, On in Persona 5. She wants to be a model. She's sensitive about, is this the right path for me? Am I just someone to look good at? Is there more to me than that? So there's all kinds of questions you go through her in her palace, or not her palace, but her version of herself. So it's throughout the whole story, really. Sexuality is one element of these characters. That's why they're such good characters. They're not just about sex. They're not just about what they're attracted to. And the beauty of that is you can date them, and you could find that out. So it's always a cool thing to get to know someone better. Strawman again, blocked me and your profile picture was default. Really? Huh. Okay, that sounds like something to do with your end then, because I don't think I blocked anyone in the longest of times on YouTube, because now they don't allow you to block people. They only allow to mute them. So I don't know what happened there. That's weird. But hopefully you're okay now. I can see you. Everything's great. So anyway, on with the show.
We're going to take a close look at the LGBT issues in Persona 4. If you like turn-based RPGs at all and you haven't tried this game, you definitely should give it a shot. It's a fantastic game, and one of the few modern RPGs that actually involves RPing. We'll have to do an episode on that sometime. I know.
You haven't played much, have you?
I don't even know if I agree with that, because I don't know, you're a silent protagonist, you're not really role-playing in that game.
Yeah, the protagonist of Persona 4 does kind of have a little bit of personality.
All the choices of on the game is from the character's perspective. It's not actually blank choices that your character could make.
Yeah, he's pretty much the vessel for everyone else to come to. That's kind of what it's always been, though. In all of the Persona games, you're just the vehicle for everyone else to shine. And yeah, you have your three choices to select from, but those are usually like normal, goofy, and then just like absolute disregard or just say something random. So it's always been like that through all the choices. So that's about as personal as it gets.
Yeah, it's not like, compare it to like the old, your old Baldur's Gate and some type games where you can really mold your character's personality kind of from the ground up. You don't really get that in Persona, which is not a bad thing. Right. I don't mind playing a character as he's written by the writers. I also don't agree. It's one of the very few RPGs that involves RPing. There's lots of RPGs that do that.
Yeah, and when you talk about Persona series, like Persona 3, the main character is kind of just not there. He's just sort of despondent and in his own world, and he doesn't really feel anything. And that's kind of the theme of the story, is that you're sort of existentially not involved with the rest of the world. And he sort of he just throws himself at danger without any care, because one of the themes is suicide. With 4, they play with the concept of the hero character being this likable guy who's so likable that girls are not only attracted to him as a person, but as, oh wow, he's so cool. He's not just doing awesome things. He is an awesome guy. He's friends with his family. He loves his niece. What is that? He treats her like his sister. He's just nice to everyone. His cousin, yeah. He's just friendly with everyone. Likes him. That's the whole idea, because that was one of the inspirations from Persona 3, which was the social links. You get along with everyone, and now you are actually that person. You're this playboy who just everyone loves, but he never actually flirts. He's just this really nice guy.
There's a reason why the whole Chad Narukami thing became a meme.
Exactly. That's the vibe he gives off. He's this handsome-looking prince fellow who's just very charming, but also just a nice guy. And then you get 5, where he's this sort of rebellious, good-looking, strong, silent fellow who is just a mix of Narukami and a mix of Yuki from Persona 3. He's this sort of strange, who's the mysterious dude? And obviously you have your stats and you beef him up and you can be really smart and really fast and whatever. So, Yeah, it's that sort of hero motif or archetype they play with very well in these games. So, but when you say Persona, to me that immediately speaks JRPG. Like they have reinvented the JRPG with Persona 3. So when we think,
absolutely.
When I said JRPG, I think Dragon Quest. I thought Final Fantasy. Now when I say JRPG, I think Persona. So that's just.
I find the claim that the only real role-playing game in a long time questionable. I mean, you had at least the Mass Effect series around that same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had.
I'm just double checking here. Persona 4 came out in 2008.
Yeah, roughly the same time.
You had Dragon Age around that time.
Yep.
Yeah. Mass Effect came out in November of 2007. It came out about 8 months before Persona 4. So, unless extra credits means 8 months is a long time.
Yeah, and that's the big ones. There are more unknown titles. I'm very sure, and then you have the trouble that many people conflate action RPGs with role-playing games just because there are stats for strength and dexterity and constitution. That I disagree with the notion that just because you have stats that you can increase, it's a role-playing game. That's not what makes the role-playing game a role-playing game. The role-playing game
more like
is made by the
game.
decisions you make and that you influence the story that way.
It's more like an action game with RPG elements.
I remember.
I think
what'd you
because
say? I heard a game being mentioned, but I didn't hear what game it was.
It was a Lost Odyssey. That came out around this time, didn't it, too?
I believe so.
Oh yeah, but Lost Odyssey was a story on rails.
Yeah, December 2007.
Yeah,
that was more like a classic Final Fantasy type game.
That's another one. I wouldn't really call that a game with those heavy role playing because you were playing Kime.
It's the classic JRPG style. The characters' personalities are predefined.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though.
Yeah, but it's not this open RPG type that the extra credits guy is talking about here. But that is not a thing that just like Smut said. These things are around, and if you are really into the genre, you will probably find some niche products in that vein as well. They're just quite intense to make because you have all these open paths and all these different directions you can go in. Like anyone who's played the Baldur's Gate series will know this.
And at this point, there's so many versions of games now that have RPG elements, like even shooters nowadays, that it's kind of been ubiquitous with video gaming. You're going to be playing some element of an RPG in anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can in that sense you can interpret the first Deus Ex game especially as a role-playing game.
For sure, yeah. So anyway, with JRPGs, it's because of the Persona series. It's now JRPGs are associated with social links, calendar months, going to school, having waifus, having all these elements all together in this year-long story, which is pretty much all the Persona games from 3 to 5. You go from calendar year 1 to calendar year 2, solving crimes and helping people and attacking people with the recesses of your mind. So anyway, lots of...
And I guess that could be what they mean by a game with some actual RPing, like because you have the choice to spend all your time studying or spend all your time doing social links or whatever like that. But even so, I don't know. I don't agree because, like I said, to me, role playing means you're shaping your character's personality, which you don't really do in really any JRPG, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing, but it's not role playing.
Yeah, the definition has been changed because there's certain popular games that have been coming out as a result, And not every game can be Alpha Protocol. Not every game can give you these freedoms to become this other character. Like even with KOTOR, you can go light and dark side, and you look a certain way. With Fable, light and dark or good and bad, you look a certain way. So that's just more of a cosmetic thing too, with your dialogue options. But at least it gives the idea that, oh, because you're dark side, now you can kill that guy over there more brutally than if you were light side. But that's part of the charm. It's part of characterization. Yeah. It's not much, but it's still there.
Yeah. I would say that for and what he's going for in regards to role-playing game elements, mechanics, it depends on, do you have decision trees that can steer the world in different directions? And so that's part one, because you can do that with a silent protagonist.
Right.
Or because it's not that then makes the world not linear. You can still have the story be linear, but things being affected through your decisions. And the other element would be the character building itself. Anything else is what you make out of the game and play in your head. Because while the Legend of Zelda games aren't role-playing games, but action adventures, you can still play in your head whatever you think Link should act and behave, and what story you make up in your head. That is the classical, outside of video games, idea of role-playing games.
Right.
That is what you project on the hero, but that is not what in game design terms is meant with role-playing game.
A lot of people who like Crusader Kings like to do role-playing too. If you are playing as William the Conqueror, you are going to conquer England or Wales, Scotland, and try to think how William would think.
Mm-hmm.
So the definition, has changed over the years, but we all have this general idea that has a series of elements and gameplay mechanics that we all recognize and go, okay, yeah, that's more of Japanese. This is more Western. This is more 90s. This is more PC, RPG, Black Isle style, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all these things that we can get into details, and we always have these wonderful redefinitions of the term RPG. But for me, just as a Japanese thing, I go, yep, that's a JRPG. That's what popularized it. That's what people know. And with Persona 5 being the most sold or the most popular Persona game ever, it's become more mainstream. And now I don't know what they're going to do for the next game, but they're going to take another 10 years to figure that out.
Oh, and I remember in the 90s when we had the genre wars where we were all fighting about what is this game, what is that game? Is this an RPG? Is this an action adventure? Then we made a distinction to hack and slash games, and over the years other people and forgot again and labeled games things that we already had defined and established as this is not that but this, and
right
now it's just all a mess and everybody calls whatever he has as what he
and
wants.
Whenever a new game comes out, like Metal Gear, and you're like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting, it changes how we perceive the 3D person perspective experience. And then you have all these other, like Siphon Filter and all these other flavors of the sneaking genre. So yeah, it's just you're constantly being inspired by previous experiences that makes better mechanics, more refined mechanics. Whether you're talking about MMOs, turn-based combat, doesn't matter. There's so much to be inspired by. So let's just imagine it's a series of so many patterns that we can't possibly have a clear definition because the genres have been so subdivided that it's hard to understand. Anyway, we're not going to get into a semantics about what it means to play an RPG. So let's just try and keep going.
We're going to try not to spoil much, but we are going to talk about one early section of the game in a fair amount of detail, so, well, you know the drill. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Kanji Tatsumi, and to a lesser extent, Naoto Shirogane. Let's start at the beginning. Kanji Tatsumi is gay. The developer...
No, he's not.
He's not.
He really isn't. I'm sorry, but...
You're about to say that the developers say he isn't, but he clearly is. No, he's not. Although if they made this video,
only
they
matters
would probably say he's gay coded.
I know, but even if the developers said that, I wouldn't care because it's not in the game. It's not there.
the way the
thing
social
is-
justice
is-
mind works is that it only counts what the developer says if it is pro-gay.
In the
When the
West,
developer
it's
doesn't
conversation
says the opposite, the developer is ignored, or even so much so that the developers never mention.
And the conversation in the West got a little muddled on this because Troy Baker, who plays Kanji, said that when he was dubbing the game, they told Troy Baker that Kanji was gay. I don't know if it's true or not, but like, it's really complicated, the issue here.
Yeah, I've heard that, but from what I understand, the only person who told him that Kanji was gay was Patrick Seitz, I think, who was the voice director. It wasn't anybody from Atlas who told him that, or at least I haven't found anything to suggest that.
You mean for the localization?
Yeah, for the localization.
Yeah, that guy has no credit to make any such decisions.
I understand that, but a lot of people don't. So they'll take this and they'll run with it.
Dear SJWs, aren't you the ones fighting harmful stereotypes? So why are you forcing the image of that just because someone's, as you say, gay coded, that person has to be gay? Why can't a person that seems to be gay be not gay?
Like, the big thing with Kanji is he's this pretty masculine dude when you first meet him, but you find out that like he likes sewing and stuff, so he has a lot of feminine interests. So he's like, am I gay? And then he meets Naoto, and she's presenting herself as male, but she's a girl, and he kind of gets a crush on her, and that just kind of confuses him more.
I'm not surprised.
I just want to know how the hell she walks around with that strap on her chest, considering she's the bustiest out of all the girls. It's like, how does that?
Oh, is she?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
she
kind of
ends
weird.
up, she ends up to have the largest chest of any of them. I mean, that's one of those things I would just call,
but
yeah.
the chick ties down her boobs in it.
Yeah,
see,
that I would
that's-
call anime nonsense.
Yeah,
That's the magical anime bra.
Yes.
just shrinks your chest. It's like, why?
Yeah. So chest binders are a thing, but they are, as I've heard, quite uncomfortable. But that's all I can say. I don't know how much they can reduce a chest size. So probably if you're just a B cup, you can probably hide them pretty well. But above that, it's probably not gonna. But I have not talked to trans men about that
Okay.
before.
Another odd thing is I think Naoto actually wears a male uniform in the game.
Yep.
I don't
He
know how
does.
strict Japanese schools would actually be on that.
You would think that they would give you the uniform. I don't. Does she wear the pants the same as the uniform for the guys? I can't recall.
Yeah, she wears the
Yeah,
boys'
she wears
uniform.
the
There's this
uniform
whole
for
scene.
everyone.
The only time you see her in a girl's uniform is in the Christmas Eve date if you're dating her.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think, I don't know if they ever explain it in game. I think it's kind of the implication she gets away with it because she's a famous
Right.
detective.
She decides to join the high school for detective reasons. So like, okay, fine, you do your job, but you still have to enroll as a student. That's totally fine. Which is kind of funny because she's already super competent. It's like she doesn't have to go to school. And compared to all the other girls, like she can reasonably cook. She can follow instructions. She's super bright. She knows, she can deduce, like she's a detective. She's naturally smart. Even I just remember the date. She made chocolate. And there's always these horror stories of all the girls making food, and they always screw up. And Naoto just follows the recipe, and she makes this. They do not show it on screen, but it's like an engraved piece of chocolate. So who knows what design she put on there? But the fact that it actually tasted good was like, oh wow, she can cook, or she can bake at least.
Yeah, that was the big twist.
Yeah, it's like, what? She can make food and not kill someone? Oh my god, she's perfect. Like she's the best girl.
She made a pretty good omelet and then chocolate later.
Oh boy.
Heterosexual tomboy that can cook. It's the perfect wife.
She is the best girl. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, this is the best girl. She doesn't kill you when she makes you something.
I mean, I want to agree. I like Rise too much, but you know.
Rise is a bit, I wouldn't say clingy, just a bit too.
That's part.
She's a bit too forward. It's like, okay, lady, just calm down. All right, I know.
That's the best part.
I know Narukami is gorgeous and awesome, but just ease up, just slow down. Oh boy. Anyway.
Stepped back from stating this outright in the English version of the game. They're even on record saying that they made things more subtle for the English release. A choice that doesn't do our... Stepped back from stating this outright in the English version of the game. They're even on record saying that they made things more subtle for the English release. A choice that doesn't do our industry credit, but it's not what we're here to talk about today. This has led some fans to justify that Kanji isn't actually gay, perhaps because the character's sexuality made some of them uncomfortable. There's a great interview with Troy Baker, the voice actor for Kanji.
Oh, this thing.
Oh,
I don't care what Troy Baker
no.
Yeah, what does the English voice actor count for this? He's supposed to play a role.
Stepped back from stating this outright in the English version of the game. They're even on record
It's like
saying
the third
that they
time we're
made
watching
things
this.
more subtle for the English release. A choice that doesn't do our industry credit, but it's not what we're here to talk about today. This has led some fans to justify that Kanji isn't actually gay, perhaps because the character's sexuality made some of them uncomfortable. There's a great interview...
Okay, so in case you guys don't know, there's a cross-dressing pageant for the guys. So everyone gets dressed up as a girl. So don't worry. There's nothing about that makes him question.
So this picture just was taken out of context?
They just threw that in there,
Yeah.
but just to understand
also-
where that came from.
It also happens in the other games, and again, I think this is just like a culture festival thing.
Yep.
And having cross-dressing sections for comedic effect
Yes.
is something surprisingly common in JRPGs.
Yeah, so they have a cross-dressing scene with the guys, and they have a beauty as well as I think it's bathing suit competition with the girls. So fairly common stuff. Nothing over the top.
Yes, and the punchline in the guys section is their cross-dressing, and the punchline in the girls section is the one girl is fat.
Oh, the teacher is right. What's her name? And the teacher.
Oh yeah, the teacher is a lot less sexy than she thinks she is.
Yeah, I'm gonna win, and she's like, nope. It's Naoto and Teddy. I think Teddy wins the guys.
Oh, Toasty Danny writes in the chat, the guys were tricked into attending a cross-dressing festival. The girls signed them up without their knowledge.
Yeah, so
I think it was.
Which is the comedic cross-dressing trope that you
Right.
find in a lot of Japanese
Yeah.
games and anime, and it's just a very common thing over there, and that's why people falsely hype up the cross-dressing section in Final Fantasy VII with Cloud, because that's also mainly there because of the trope and not because of here we have the character exploration stuff. No, it's written like most of how these sections go, where you have some sudden different character behavior because the character is mainly confused. It's not mainly about let's do character exploration about your own sexuality and sexual identity. It's mainly just comedic effect.
yeah, so
Yeah,
what ended
the
up
point
happening?
is, Cloud is a big, tough soldier man who has to wear a dress.
Which also is a pretty
Yeah,
boy.
and
Punchline.
all you do is check for or you can either have an outcome where he passes or an outcome where he doesn't pass,
In the original, yeah.
and
That
either
happened in
is
the remake.
either is funny in some way.
Yeah.
So in the
Yeah.
Persona
Oh,
4,
they changed that in the new one.
I mean, you still do that scene in the new one, but he picks everybody instead of just one of you. Or maybe it's because I perfectly did the rhythm section. I don't know. I only played it once.
So back to Persona 4, I believe it's Yosuke who signs them up for the beauty pageant, and then the girls get angry.
Yeah, so they sign the guys up to make them
Yeah.
cross.
So
and then Eddie comes out dressed as in like an Alice in Wonderland outfit.
oh yeah, and then he says, the next competition is gonna be swimsuit. It's like, what? Who said
Yeah.
that? And then they ended up getting the girls to do that, the swimsuit competition. So fun times at festivals apparently in Japan. I have no idea. Anyway, that was the whole context of the scene. There's really nothing special about it.
With Troy Baker, voice actor for Kanji, who's a phenomenal voice actor, by the way. We've really got to get to that voice acting episode one of these. Focus. Anyway, in the interview, Troy talks about the character of Kanji and the direction he received from people at Atlas, who, in short, told him that Kanji was gay. They even go so
I
far as
doubt
to have
that.
Kanji's character
I just
say
don't care.
that other me is.
It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't care what the other people said. It's not in the game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't.
I can
care
rather
what
imagine
the
him.
voice actor says.
So yeah, without having the citation, I would more likely think that in part, and that is in part due to language barrier issues, that they might just have told the American localization team to play him as if gay, because that's how you get the flamboyancy.
Not even. The only thing we have to work with is his shadow self, which, as we know, is a distorted exaggeration. And everyone accepts them. Like, everyone says, you are a part of me, and that's how you defeat them, is that you accept them as part of yourself. But as a result of that, after they leave the TV land and they go about their business, everyday life, Kanji doesn't act gay. He doesn't get attracted to men. So,
in fact, he gets attracted to women in several other scenes.
Yeah. So
and that's the thing with because if the writer hasn't said the character is gay, then I believe it's just some sort of let's give the localization team instructions on how to characterize the guy through voice acting, which is in part probably also to throw the player off about what's really going on with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, Troy Baker saying he got direction from people at Atlas does not even mean it was Atlas Japan who told him that. It may have been Atlas West who told him that. Someone from Atlas does not tell us anything about who he heard this from.
And again, we don't even really know the context of what they're saying, because maybe they were telling him to play up the whole gay bit for when he's playing the shadow version of himself.
Exactly. It's just the shadow version. That's all we have to work with. And it's like, okay, and great, that's it.
And Chad also says Atlas West can be notorious for mistranslating things on purpose.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of with they kind of had to do that with Catherine. Because certain scenes in that show, in that game, were like, oh, this person is a trap, but they're also an alien. So you gotta work with one of those things, and they worked with the standard, guy trying to be a girl. So they changed a few things as well in Catherine Full Body. So yeah, I mean, what do you work with?
The big controversy that I remember with Catherine was dead naming the waitress.
Oh, that was so dumb. That was just who cares? It doesn't make a difference.
Because it happens. One of the characters says that he knew the waitress as something else before, right? Something like that when they were kids or something.
Yeah, and when it comes to the credits, they credit the character under the original name instead of under her new name.
Oh, really? It's been like, okay.
Well,
it's been like 10 years since I played that game.
They also retconned the version of Catherine, the seductive one, as a normal girl, whereas in the previous story, the previous Catherine, she was a demon.
Wait. What? In Full Body they did this?
Yeah, they retconned her.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
I know. It was such a great character that you're controlled by this weird, other alien or whatever devil family, and now she's just a girl. It's like, oh, what?
But the Westerners wouldn't understand this. We need to change things because the Westerners don't understand things, and they are these weird Puritans who are sex phobic and weird and don't like women.
Yeah, it's a
way it
great
was
story.
before.
The actual story or narrative of Catherine's kind of cool. The gameplay is silly. It's just a puzzle game. But
The way the Catherine was before was I could see it believably being a side story in kind of the Megaton franchise as a whole.
Yeah.
If they're removing the whole demon element, that feels a little off, I guess.
I don't know. A lot
Did
of
they-
people liked it. I was like, why would you change something which works totally fine? I don't know.
Did they remove the demon element entirely, or did they just retcon Catherine being a demon?
I think they retconned the whole thing.
Okay, that makes no sense.
Yeah. I really like the bar. Like the idea of the bar is like the guy owns it. He's a demon and you're coming in there with your problems and there's this huge weird, everyone's having sleep problem. All the guys have weird issues. Like it was all because of the demon world. And now it's just, yeah, it's just a problem. Everyone's got a problem. What? Why? Anyway.
So who's responsible for everything in full body?
I would have to go through it again to make sure, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Let me just recheck one more time. But anyway, let's keep going.
Is me if you complete his social link. The evidence is piled pretty high. But hey, we don't take much stock in authorial intent here at Extra Credits anyway, so who cares what the developers say his sexuality is? What's actually important here is that Kanji's
What?
sexuality is what makes him interesting. It's a key part in making him a compelling, multidimensional character. Imagine if Kanji was an unambiguously straight male character. What does he become? All you're left with is a stereotypical tough guy with perhaps a softer side.
Okay.
Which is extremely unusual in Japanese media, which is the entire point of his character.
Even then, I found this move just very, very scummy. Because first, it's all about what did the developer say and what does the voice actor say. And then because that suits our narrative, we can now say, oh, it's not important what they actually say. You would
Also,
definitely if it wasn't expected. If you didn't have this as you call it, gay coding of the character. Then they rely heavily on what the developer said, whether they did or not. And I just find this very disingenuous.
Yeah, and I like that statement about who cares what the developer... We don't care much about authorial intent here at Extra Credits, which is very telling, which is a big sticking point with me, because I don't like death of the author as a concept.
Well, I think that's worse than death of the author. Death of the author. I should look it up again, but from memory, isn't that just taking into account the author's life history, character, and all of that, instead of because what we're talking about here is the actual author's intent of what the characters are. And Extra Credit says, and that I don't think is death of the author, because we are talking about the story as it is written.
Yeah.
That is already detached from the author for the most part. And what Extra Credit says, we don't actually care what the real story is and what the characters really are. We don't care about that. We just make up our own shit, and then you have to deal with that, because what we say is the actual thing. That, I think, is the horrible part. They're rewriting the thing, but with very soft, scummy, disingenuous methods.
Even if he's just a normal guy with a soft side, that would still work. It would still be understood that he has this element to himself, which he's struggling with, which he can't quite figure out. And it doesn't have to be sexual in nature. It could just be he likes cute things, which turns out to be the case anyway. So whether it manifests as a homoerotically, fantastic shadow self is like, okay, that's weird. But it could have just have been himself who's very effeminate anyway. He could be like
Kanji is the tough and rough guy because he has feminine interests. It's not he's the tough guy with feminine interest. He's a tough guy because of them. He's overcompensating. It's kind of the whole point of his character.
all the characters in the Persona games have to accept a part of themselves to a degree. That's kind of an aspect of the social link and an aspect of the plot progression of the story. They're usually the champion of their chapter. They are the villain or the focus. So that's kind of how these games get played or play out.
It's why when after the at the very ending of the game when you come back, Kanji's changed so much because he's wearing glasses now and he's not dyeing his hair anymore.
Right.
He's lost that tough edge because he's accepted himself.
Yeah, same with Naoto. She has accepted her feminine side. She dresses and does her hair. Well, her hair's still tomboyish, but it's a little bit longer. So yeah, it's the same idea that they've.
Grow her hair.
What's that?
On the comic sequel, she grow her hair.
Oh, don't even talk about the manga. That was a mess. There's a Naruto manga that I just don't even.
Yeah,
read.
I know about it. It's pretty bad.
It is. Yeah, I don't know how they screwed it up. Such a great character. It's like just.
Well, it wasn't the original writers. I know that much.
Yeah, but why would they even give it to someone else to just do your own thing? Yeah, have fun with this character. It's like, why? Don't do that. Anyway, that was
maybe they trusted them.
Oh god.
And then that trust was abused.
Here's a bunch of money to screw up our character. Thanks. Here's a shitty manga. Like, oh. Anyway.
That's a card trope we've seen played out in game after game after game after game.
Okay, whoa, slow down there, buddy. Marcus Phoenix compared to Kanji? I don't think so. It's Dante.
I think this is. I don't think it is Marcus Phoenix on the
Oh, it's Dom.
Character.
Yeah, that's
Wait.
Dom.
Oh! I just realized something. Aren't these the same people, like extra credits, the social justice ideologues who complain about toxic masculinity that has no room for emotion and everything? But here he's showing characters, and Cypher is not necessarily a good guy for the most part of the story. That have a softer side somewhere. Isn't that counter the whole toxic masculinity story that they're trying to sell us for
That's not
forever?
I don't think I'd describe any of these characters as being similar to Kanji in that way, because their softer sides aren't really like that. They secretly like kittens. Dom just loves his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
just
extremely broad definition of a masculine character with a soft side.
Does it make more sense to just say they have a human side beneath their gruff outer skin?
With Persona, you have this wonderful setting to delve into the literal unconscious mind of the person. So obviously every character you do that with is going to have more depth. So you can say, yeah, obviously Kanji's better than these characters, but not because he has a shadow self which is homoerotic. That's stupid. The fact he has a shadow self and you get to fight it and you deal with that issue and he accepts that aspect of himself is cool. Which, if you talk about the hero's journey, that's what ends up happening anyway for one story. And Persona does that with multiple characters. That's why you identify with them so easily, because they focus so much on that character for one chapter. Safer, I don't know what the hell his bag. Final Fantasy, it's a mystery to me. So Safer was just the guy who used to like Renoa. And that's it. I mean, that's all there is.
It's too long ago that I played Final Fantasy VIII to remember where Cypher ended up in the end.
I don't care. I hate that game.
Oh, it was just right when you're 15 and full of hormones and teen angst and stuff and and after that it's
well, you got Final Fantasy
that transition
9.
very, very interesting.
9 at least had something to it, but still, the flavor of 8
Well,
was...
9 was a homage to the earliest Final
Yeah,
Fantasy.
it was cool. It was cute, and it had these cute designs, and I thought that was great. And it was streamlined a lot, so it was easier to get into. But I don't know, those designs freaked me out. Some of the storytelling, like this is sometimes it works, sometimes it's off. Very odd feeling from 9.
Yeah, I just have a thought, and I think that shows how the SJWs jump to conclusions based on the stereotypes they have about the sexes. If we invert kanji by sex and interests, like make him a girl that has male interests, male tomboyish side, not like Naoto, but just the complete inverse that he is, and while still being homosexual. So you would end up with a tomboy that is overcompensating in femininity to play over her male interests, and the SJWs would then interpret that as being lesbian.
Oh, jeez. Well,
they would assume her sexual orientation from her repressed interests, which is quite insulting, I think.
Well, I remember a character from Persona 2 called Ulala, and she's a boxer. And she's a goth. Like, everyone in that game is goth, so it's kind of hard to like figure out if they're being moody or if it's just the thing that everyone was designed. But she's a thin girl, but she's her main fighting feature are her fists, and she's always been against guys who abuse girls and this and that. So her anger is really important to her and why she fights, and she's always going into that. So she's one of those characters that have these emotions in her. They express that through the story. She finds friendship with all the gang she teams up with. Everyone sort of gets their own sort of relationship at the end in that story, which is kind of loosely connected. So
yeah, Ulala and Baofu kind of.
Yeah, I was like, that's a strange pairing. I could see it, but still kind of strange. So that you have these elements already throughout the Persona series, but they weren't developed enough until we got to 3, and that's when you can go into these characters. What was her name? The redheaded school council president, who's also in charge of the whatever group that makes all these guns.
Mitsuru
Senpai. There you go. So you go into her backstory. You go into her father's backstory. Why the Aegis was created and all this other stuff. So you're allowed to flesh these characters out, and they deal with their shadow selves, which is cool. But with Safer, nothing. Dante, barely anything until you get to Devil May Cry 3, I guess. A little bit. It's
and
just...
Dunn died on the Gears of War 3.
Yeah. It's such a unique thing in Persona because you're allowed to delve into, you're forcibly thrown into this unconscious realm, which I think has enough Jungian psychologists going, oh, this is great. So all these wonderful symbolisms and imagery. It's like, yeah, it's a little too much at sometimes. So, yeah, if you like that sort of stuff, you're going to love Persona series. But anyway, let's keep going. Strawman, Dom grieving over his dead wife must be homo. I don't know. I don't know.
No, they're not saying that Dom is gay. They're saying that Kanji has to be gay or he'd be a boring, tough guy who's nice sometimes.
Yeah, who likes like kittens and stuff. It's like, what? What's wrong with that?
Even though, again, this is a lot different. The cultural context is a lot different because this is not a game made for Westerners with a Western audience in mind. It's made, in a cultural context where gender roles are not the same.
I would like to see Dom have a more soft side, just because he's so he's just so big and gruff and tough, and like, okay. I don't think that'd be a focus of the story, because you shouldn't have that in that style of game when you're talking about aliens invading Earth. But what a strange comparison. Hey, 360, thanks for the 720. This is where context is important, because Kanji is basically just a character who's struggling with maintaining Japanese norms of masculinity. He's also trying to fit in. Like, he's trying to figure out who he is, as most teenagers at that age are anyway, which is why the setting works so well. In all the Persona games, they're all growing into themselves. They all have demons to conquer and desires to overcome. So it works well. It's easy to understand, at least.
After movie, after comic, after game, after movie, after game, after movie. What? Whatever. A quick recap for those of you who haven't played the game. The player is introduced to Kanji as a mysterious hooligan and a wild child who never shows up to school and is, in general, too busy tearing up the town to actually appear in the game. In the course of the game's central mystery, the player's character begins to suspect Kanji might be involved in the strange goings-on and starts to follow him around. This whole section raises the question of Kanji's sexuality, and then the game does what it does best, and throws Kanji into an alternate reality that is representative of the repressed parts of his psyche. This entire area is a mix of symbolism that expresses everything from Kanji's conflicts with authority to his homosexual desires. And here's where Kanji moves from being a stereotype to a fully fleshed-out human character. He's a teenager wrestling with his sexuality. Even if you never had trouble coming to grips with sexuality yourself, this is something we can all empathize with. Our teenage years are difficult for all of us.
I don't think he's coming to grips with his sexuality at all. He likes Naoto. He likes other girls. He comments on how attractive they are. He's actually pretty blunt with his feelings. He's shy about what he
is actually. Yeah, he's actually shy because he likes what the Japanese could consider feminine things, like eating or making cute bears, that stuff.
There's plenty of scenes. I remember, was it Golden in the ski lodge, where everyone's watching whoever the main character went to the off track with the skiing with, and they're in that little, I don't know, shed to keep warm. And he's like, why would they take their clothes off? It's freezing outside. It's like, are you stupid or something? It's like, Kanji, what do you think is going on? Like, he's just so naive. He doesn't care. He's just like, what's going on? Like, why would you do that? That's dumb. So he doesn't really care about sexuality that much.
Yeah. So if attraction to men isn't displayed even in the psyche parts, in the other world elements, then you cannot make the assumption that he is homosexual or bisexual. It's just that body in the rose bouquet, for example.
Right.
This can also be a simple display for his effeminate, vulnerable side.
Right.
This is the interests he has, and it's an exaggerated display of that, as you described, is what these games are doing.
Yeah. So
and
what is it?
There are the counterpart to the tomboy, so the homosexual, heterosexual girl with male interests that likes rough and tumble play, that likes take over people, for example, is in the extreme the sissy boy. That is the man that is also that can also be heterosexual, that has female interests, more effeminate behavior, and prefers socializing and more human interaction jobs over technical stuff.
Yeah, and from what I can understand, it's played for laughs after, because everyone knows because they fought their shadow self. Everyone fought Kanji's version of himself, and they saw how outrageously gay they were. And there's scenes after the fact saying, I don't swing that way, because they're in a tent together, and they're sort of. I think that was in the animation as well, where
what he has. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
And they're saying like because Narukami, he's pretty like chill. Like I'm pretty confident with my masculinity, but there's certain lines I don't want to cross. He's like, what are you talking about?
Yusuke is usually the one to bring it up.
Yeah, Yusuke is very sensitive about those things, and Narukami doesn't care. Yeah, Narukami and Kanji are kind of the same in that regard. They just say whatever's on their mind very bluntly. Whereas Narukami, nothing phases him, whereas Kanji freaks out all the time. But they're still open about it. So
Yeah, and
it's played for laughs. That's it.
and the error the SJWs are making in their propaganda and in their worldview, because as we've seen with other YouTubers, they seem obsessed with people being gay or anything not heterosexual, anything not being trans. They seem to be obsessed with that, and so they see it everywhere. They project what they want to see onto things that aren't there. And what they're doing, what is going on here, is that from the fact of more feminine interests and a vulnerable feminine side in that effeminate side inside, they judge this must be a gay character. Or today they would probably say that Kanji is trans and not gay. It's probably what they would say today. And the same way the other way around. And this is how they tell tomboys that they're trans when they just have male interests. Because and this is the irony that they are the people who claim that all these things, interests and biological sex and sexual orientation, that's all detached from each other. It's all totally detached and totally individual dials from each other that can have different, completely different detached values from each other. When in reality, they run as hard with the stereotyping as Christian conservatives would. Like they see something effeminate on a man, and they say this must be gay or this must be trans.
Yeah, our conversation about code.
You're cutting out a bit.
Yeah, let me just change regions.
Sorry.
Give me like 5 seconds. I'm going to switch to Hong Kong just to make sure that fixes the problem.
Actually, I'm using push to talk, and my phone's kind of acting a bit weird. That's it.
Oh, you're using push to talk? Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of reminding me of the conversation they had on the last EFAP about coding, where I don't think I was ever noticed it before, but coding is just another word for stereotyping. They're just
Exactly.
stereotyping.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely right. And they made it up so that they can keep stereotyping while accusing everyone else of stereotyping. That's the whole trick. It's a newspeak word they make up so that they can still do the crime that they call evil, but seem virtuous or neutral about it. You got it completely right. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're more than halfway done, so it shouldn't take too long. I'm sure they have a long, 30-second thing at the end where they just thank everyone. But anyway.
There's a lot to understand, and we're usually not as secure in who we are as we become in our later years. After all, our teen years are when we're just discovering who we are in the first place. There's a great pressure to conform, to fit in, or at least to establish an identity for ourselves. We get to watch the conflict in Kanji play out. He's got it figured out. He knows who he is, or at least so he thinks. He's a man. He won't take lip from anybody. He's tough enough that he's going to be free no matter what it costs him. He's not going to listen to anybody but himself. And yet, here he is, growing up in a society that tells him homosexuality is unmanly, that it's weak. So we fight.
It's not about that.
No, what society tells him is that men are not supposed to be interested in sewing and, making stuffed animals and cute things and all of this stuff. And he thinks, do people think I'm gay if I like this stuff? They've got it completely backwards. The delinquent act is overcompensation for the fact that he thinks that if people find out he likes this cutesy, quote unquote, girly stuff, they'll think he's gay, so he acts tough. And he does, I mean, to some extent, he has a pretty nasty temper and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not...
It's really
that's
funny.
not completely out there, but
when they sort of
Kanji-
poke him on that, he runs to the girls' tent and sleeps with them.
Yeah, Kanji is basically the boy called Sue, but he's not called Sue.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
pretty
good-
much.
That's an interesting analogy.
Man in Black. A wonderful little song there. All right.
It's against what he feels because he believes it conflicts with his identity. There's an almost beautiful irony to it. He sees himself as completely independent, unchained, beholden only to himself, valuing his personal freedom and liberty above all else.
Really?
And yet even he is ruled by the views of his society. Throughout the game, it's reinforced that Kanji thinking his sexuality is unmanly is not a view he came to internally after much
What?
personal consideration. Instead, it's a view continuously reinforced from the outside by strangers and other people in his life. But he can't...
They are
What?
confused.
Yeah, a lot
Can
of
I
it's
see that
just
text
running-
again?
They're really like just they're starting from the point, oh, Kanji is gay, and now
Therefore, yeah.
that everything else is built off the assumption that Kanji is gay.
Okay, I'd say in this line we see on screen here that extra credits, for example, is projecting onto this that it means this must mean he's talking about his sexual orientation and not his simple interests.
They got sexual identity and masculinity confused, I think.
Yeah, and exactly. And again, what's being reinforced from his society is that his interests are not manly. He's not supposed to have those interests because he's a man. There's nothing. It's not built off of who he's sexually attracted to. It's built off of the things he enjoys, his personality. He's not actually that mean or tough, and he's not interested in what he's supposed to be interested in. And there's some confusion, yes, with Naoto, but a lot of that is because Naoto is the first person who's ever not cared that he's not interested in what he's supposed to be interested in.
Which is interesting because Naoto is also trying to be more feminine, and she does like cute things. She's just not good at understanding or accepting them because she's always tried to be a boy or looked like a boy. And here's Kanji, who's like, "Well, I love cute things." And he's so it's this wonderful friendship they've got, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
And even the
that's also-
screenshot here, this is the screenshots they're showing, like where the line about him, about people saying you're not manly. What they're not, they're talking about the things he likes doing. They think he's a weirdo for enjoying quote unquote girly things because this is Japan. This is also not even Tokyo. This is rural Japan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's more extreme.
Which has a much more rigidly conservative society than the West, or even city Japan to some extent.
Not to mention, I highly doubt anyone. I highly doubt anyone is actually looking at him like this. This is just what he's assuming.
Yeah, that's the other thing. This is his perception of himself.
You mean he's more paranoid about it than he needs to be.
Yeah,
Pretty much. Yeah.
Exactly.
There is a similar thing going on with some people with gender dysphoria that is not the SJWs. So you would have an actual rainbow issue there, if you want to call it that, and I certainly despise the term.
I'm sure there are people out there who argue that Kanji is trans too. I just
Wow.
As I said before, they would probably do that today. Because this video is how old? 9 years? 10
Yeah.
years?
Yeah, and the game is 13 years old now. I'm sure I think there are people who argue that Yusuke from Persona 5 is trans as well.
Yeah, I remember Upperman covered an article about Naoto, I think just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And about SJWs who were making up shit about Naoto. That's where I knew the character from. And I think they alleged that Naoto was trans or something, which
that's
by everyone's description makes no sense.
Well, it's because
that's
of
another
that
big,
yeah,
long time argument.
It also has to do with her shadow self, which I mentioned that she wants to perform this surgery to remove the feminine aspect of herself. That's just the shadow doing those things. It's not her. She doesn't accept that aspect of herself. She then embraces her femininity as a result. So
the shadow is not all it's not your entire self. The shadow is a part of you.
Yeah, and the whole point is she wants
can be at war with the other parts of you.
Yeah, and she wants to do it because she wants to be accepted in a man's world, not because she wants to be a man.
Yeah.
She says, I want to work in a man's world, but I can't be because I'm a woman, so the goal, the response I have to make is stop being a woman.
Yeah, and
this is why a lot of people do think that these people didn't play through the game, because a lot of these theories do kind of seem fine on a surface level.
You're really soft. I'm sorry.
What's that?
You're really soft. I could barely hear you.
So, a lot of these theories do kind of work on a surface level, but like, as soon as the character goes through their arc, they've kind of dealt with that, and the theory doesn't work anymore. It's not even that far into the story where these characters have kind of accepted themselves.
It's at the end of this dungeon that Kanji says, I figured it out, I'm not gay, I just want people to accept me. And my weird interests. But of course, the statement, the argument against that I've seen is that that's Atlas kind of copping out.
No, it's
queer baiting.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
It's a term I've seen many times.
Oh, that's horrible. That's just. I think that is very, very stereotypical people, and there are some of those, and obsessed with this gay with characters being gay, that they just want that. They want to see that, and they want to see their fetish resolved, so that they can get their dopamine high. So yeah, it's a gay character. Yes. It's just dumb. These people are not able to comprehend nuanced stories. And that's why I brought up the trans thing, because there are some very odd things happening, because everyone's dealing with this real dysphoria in his or her own way. And some people, because not everyone admits to have it to the outside, not everyone wants to transition, people look for other ways to deal with it. And some people, as you brought up, overcompensate in the other direction, part out of denial, and part out of I don't want to be found out that something's wrong with me. So while people with real gender dysphoria tend to have mannerisms of the other sex, they're aware of some of them, but not all of them. So they try to hide the ones that they're aware of. But when they then come out, like to their closer friends and all of that, and then say, "Oh, I have this condition and I want to transition. I'm just telling you early because I see you as a valuable person," and so on. And they're quite often met with, "Oh, that makes sense. So like they're not really surprised, the people they come out to, because there were a lot of other traits of the other sex that the people could see, but the person with the actual dysphoria couldn't notice, because you can't be aware of every little thing you do. And the people who overcompensate in that way, that is something you could bring in such a story. But this is not what Kanji is doing. He is overcompensating in order to hide what would not be accepted, the way you describe it. But when he accepts that, he becomes a more rested. He develops more inner peace, just as someone who would accept a sexual orientation or would accept the annoying condition of gender dysphoria as being the thing, and then okay, let's work around that or with it or whatever. And that's just one thing I wanted to bring up, because that is not everybody who's overcompensating in a sexual sex or gender stereotype or whatever you want to call it, gender role, is hiding a sexual orientation or is hiding dysphoria. It can just be hiding insecurity, a fear of not being taken seriously or something. And another thing I noticed is that SJWs seem to be completely unaware of anything, any other gay type than the effeminate gay, the effeminate flamboyant gay. They don't seem to be aware at all of the very masculine, sometimes hyper-masculine, hairy bear-like guy. Yeah, that's and I never see this around in social justice circles. They only ever have these effeminate twigs. They never have the bears. So maybe because they are too masculine for the SJWs, because they seem to despise masculinity, and the I'd call them normal gays. I don't know if there's another term for that actually. The ones you don't notice ever in society, that are just indistinguishable from heterosexual people. They don't talk about their homosexuality. They are not flamboyant at all. And you would only learn that they're gay if you're invited for dinner and then meet his husband or something. And then, oh, you're gay, I didn't know. Okay. And all these types seem to be completely non-existent to SJWs. They only seem to recognize what is absolutely over the top and noticeable on a surface level, and then it has to be always the gay or always the trans. It can't be anything else. It can't be just insecurities. It can't be just different interests. They're the stereotypers.
All right, let's keep on going. We got 2 minutes left.
And other people in his life, but he can't recognize that, and he tears himself apart over it. This is depth. This is a character, with a real struggle, with something we can learn from regardless of our own sexuality. As the game
What, you don't know your own sexuality? What age are you? How old are you that you don't know your own sexuality?
What the hell did he just say?
Yeah, and I guess we can only learn this lesson about inner struggle and coming to terms with ourselves if he's gay, and it doesn't work if he's straight, I guess.
Oh, God. Let me hear that one more time. That was bizarre.
With a real struggle, with something we can learn from regardless of our own sexuality.
Okay, so regardless of what I think of my own sexuality, I can learn about sexuality from another dude who just wants to be accepted for what he likes.
Well, what did he say? Okay, he said what we can learn about ourselves I need to hear this again.
You want to go back?
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Something we can learn from regardless of our own sexuality.
Okay. But you're not doing that extra credits. You're not detaching the characters from their sexuality, sexual orientation at all. You're insisting the sexual orientation because of other traits.
He's certainly right about Kanji being a complex character, but
yeah,
not quite why.
All right. Well, he's got the premise wrong, so I don't want to comment on that because it's kind of silly. But I don't think we're going to learn about our own sexuality by watching supposedly another fellow who's, even if he was or wasn't questioning his own sexuality, I don't think that's how it works with fiction. I think you'll get inspired. I think you'll be like, oh yeah, it's kind of interesting that some guy figured it out. But it's not going to be, I now I know I'm gay. It's like, no, it's not going to happen that way. Anyway, here's Elite6321. Thank you. It's also worth mentioning that Kanji is the youngest member in the P4 group, despite being swole as F. Yes, he's a big boy. So that's part of his character. He overcompensates. So
Yeah, he's 15, I think, right?
yeah, he is a young guy.
Yes.
If the character was really just homosexual and struggling with that, I think the character would be less complex.
Yeah. Because if he was just a tough guy who was also gay, then I don't know. I mean, I guess, okay, it's not as accepted in Japan, sure, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. That's not the kind of thing he would ever really have to show off. So I don't know. This is such a.
Yeah, it's
like I said, it's an art. The whole line of argumentation rests on the assumption that, on the premise that he's gay. They're not making the case for him being gay. They're saying he is gay. Now here is.
This is classic dialectical Marxism. He's going from the conclusion and working backwards. It's such a dumb way to have an argument.
And remember, this is when extra credits was supposed to be good.
Yeah, it went downhill from this.
This was.
Oh,
this
that
was
explains
before...
why I watched. This probably explains why I watched this. Why I stopped watching this. I think I never got into it before I stopped watching Extra History.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
it kind of feels like our
extra
conversation is a
credits,
race, and we let extra credits have a lap on us.
It kind of does feel like that, but I mean, I guess there has been this is something that's been growing in influence in academia for a very long time. So, a lot of this stuff started back in the 90s, not even. I mean, we think of the big uptick in probably 2013, 14. This is not anything new. It's just when those people who got taught it in school finally got to college.
Well, if you're trying to argue against Hegel or Hegelian dialectic, you've got problems. Sometimes going backwards works, but unless you're a logical genius, very often than not, it does not work. So
it's a maze you get very quickly lost in.
Yeah, well, that's the joy of postmodernism. Everything's a power struggle. Everything has to be explained because power, and you work. Oh, look, there's the power. Oh, I found the origin of the struggle. It's like, no, you didn't. You invented it. So anyway, let's not get into that. Wonderful job figuring out where these people go wrong and just go with the video. Here is Coolman229. Thank you, sir. Persona 4 has a message with several characters about how narrow-minded Japanese culture can be, yet this guy is actually being narrow-minded about it. Oh, well,
yes,
that's one way of putting it. Yeah. They see what they want to see is what it comes down to. It's like, oh, he must be gay. It's like, no, pay attention.
They like the conservatives. They like the fundamentalist Christians.
Yeah.
They're exactly like them.
It's satanical. Yeah. It must be evil. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's and they make the same post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacies, which is part of the thing you said.
D&D, if you play D&D, you summon the demon.
Yeah.
Or then if you
Yeah.
play D&D, you are being racist.
I actually had a teacher whose kids played D&D, and he's a very left-leaning fellow. And the reason why he didn't like his kids playing it is not because it was like demonic or whatever. It was because it took up so much time. That's all he was doing. So he was playing too much D&D. But smart kid, smart dad.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it takes a lot of time to play those things.
It can take a lot of time.
Yeah, so you can't, you can't do.
Especially if you have a good DM and good world building and do actual role play and not just dice rolling.
That could be a very good argument because the kid was having so much fun that he didn't want to do anything else. So, good for him, but not good for your development when you're just a kid. As a kid, you should do a lot of stuff. You should go on trips. You should go on bike rides, play outside, play games, play everything, do everything. Anyway.
Right, at least you have a group to play with.
Yeah, that's true.
Instead of only playing video games alone.
Yeah, there's more to life than video games, that's for sure. There's books, there's cartoons, there's movies, there's all sorts of festivals. Well,
the problem in my hometown was I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, but nobody wanted to. It was very frustrating. It was with most of my hobbies the case that I was interested in something, and usually 2 years behind me, 2 or 3 years behind me, the generations popped up that were interested in these things. But that was then I was just getting out of school, and then I popped. Okay, where are these people interested in metal are suddenly coming from? And Pokemon card game and Magic the Gathering and all of these other things I'm interested in, suddenly they're popping up and I'm out of school. Where were you when I needed you? I got beaten up for liking these things. Now they're all into it. Fuck you.
Sounds like a problem Kanji might have had growing up.
Kind of. When you get beaten up for shit and don't find anyone to share it with, then you kind of try to hide some of it because what's the point? Which also makes it hard to find because you could stumble if you kept going. You could stumble upon that one friend who has that shared interest, or rather grow a friendship from that. Yeah, kids also have their limits. Just keep going.
Yeah,
someone out there who shares your hobby, and in times of the internet, it's probably easier to find.
All right, so we're good to go. Let's go.
As the game progresses, we watch him mature and become comfortable with who he is, and by playing through that process, we can learn about our own conflicts and how we choose to address them. So would Persona 4
all
have been a
role-playing
better game
games.
if it didn't accept sexual diversity? Would it have been anywhere near as good if its developers had been complacent and just written another story about a heterosexual white or Asian male? No.
Yes.
It would have been fine.
Yes,
that's what they did.
Exactly.
They wrote a story about a heterosexual Asian male.
What he describes is just the hero's journey. You have a struggle, you get over it.
Yeah,
Done.
the Persona
And that is
series
what you
is
reflect
based
through
off
role-playing
of,
games. Not just the ones where you make all the choices that define the character, but also the stories on where you follow the character, that the main character for the most part, and are guided through that struggle of the character, which is what is going on here for in large parts as well. Because even if you can influence the world, the main story still stays the same.
Also, I like the neat little insertion of another white male in there in a Japanese a video about a Japanese game in Japan with Japanese high school students. Made by an entirely Japanese development team.
You don't see all anime
or Japanese audience.
People.
I'm telling you, this was this video was what, 9 years ago? Yeah, because this stuff really came into the cultural consciousness in like 2012 or 13. It was still there. It was all still there. It was the little shot.
Already there. It was already there. And I've been the more I'm looking into this stuff, the more I'm seeing the roots of this go all the way back to the early 2000s, to the 90s. And that's where it was still in academia and in just the most radical activist circles. And it slowly was seeping ever further, ever more outside, ever more multiplying. And here we see 9 years ago, it had already infested channels that seemed still kind of okay enough to most people, but it's already all there. And it's this subtle change in addressing all these things, putting these ideas that another white male is a bad thing.
And largely, the structure of the Persona 3 to 5 stories are kind of following the archetype of the fool's journey, which is the process of self-actualization we have as people.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just the whole point. And it's not just Kanji that's teaching us this. Every character in the game is teaching us this exact thing. Kanji's not unique in that, and it's not because he's gay either.
Yeah, and as I said, that's what most, or what a damn lot of JRPGs are doing, especially the better the stories are.
Yeah. Also, I guess I paused it before completely absorbing the point they're making here when they're showing us these games, but all three of these games they're showing are excellent, so I don't know what the issue is.
And
and he's using the trans symbol they made up.
And what is that?
That is they combined the male and the female symbol, and the added thing with the third added thing. It's then supposed, because the mix of the two, it's then supposed to be the thing that stands for trans. Back then it was transsexual, now it's transgender, and now it's just anything, whatever you call yourself and self-identify as. Yeah, that's the trans symbol.
All right.
Even though it doesn't really make sense, because, well, gender dysphoria is not about your sexual orientation.
Yeah, but look at these games. I mean, can you imagine? Oh, if only the character was gay. It's like that wouldn't. I mean, who cares? Like, what big deal?
Yeah, if only there had been more exploration of the character's sexuality in Blue Dragon, which is a game that I don't even think had a romance in it.
Yeah, like
basically,
these.
I never heard of it.
Dragon Ball. It's just a child's adventure story,
Yeah.
basically.
Blue Dragon is another Xbox exclusive. So if you were PC and Nintendo, you wouldn't have played it. It was a very turn-based JRPG classic style. Characters by Akira Toriyama. Had kind of similar, like, job-changing mechanics, like some of the older Final Fantasies. It's really, if you have the means to play Xbox 360 games, it's really worth it. It's really a good game, but it's a child's adventure story. Your character is like, I don't think he gets an age, but he looks like he's 12. Yeah, younger. Yeah,
And Star Ocean Till the End of Time it's not really like a personal journey. It's one of those kill God type stories.
Well, I do know the Star Ocean games do have a relationship system, and I think some of them affect the ending of who you end up with in some of the other games. I can't remember.
They do. Until the End of Time does have one.
Yeah.
The main story is not really about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, these are all things you can do on the side. They're nice to have, but they don't affect the main plot. You're right. I like that they have the elements in them, though. But other than that, it's not a major component. And even if the guy was like or you had the freedom to be bisexual, it's like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change anything. All right, here's Alex Halo. Don't tell this crazy about Neptunia. Keep him away. Okay. I knew someone was going to mention Neptunia. Talking about JRPGs.
They'll just take all the fun out of Neptunia.
Yeah, that's true. They probably would.
You just remind them that a woman did the character design. That's all.
They don't care. They hate Bayonetta.
That's true.
Yeah, I was about to say that, too.
She's repressing her femininity or some nonsense. I don't know.
Oh no, she's objectifying herself.
Oh God.
When a video game character does it, it's bad. But when when a Twitch bot does it, it's okay. Then it's empowering. Probably because
They want
she's
women
taking
creators
the
to
money
do
of
more
15-year-old
Ugh.
They
guys.
want women creators to do more things, but only if it's what they like.
Yeah.
All right, so these are all pretty. I remember till the end of
Yeah.
time. The Tale series has been pretty long going, so they've been
Are
quality.
the Tales games connected?
Not really.
No, yeah, there's.
You get the odd direct sequel, and like the
Okay,
two
but
most
then-
recent ones are in the same universe, but one takes place like 200 years before, 100 years before the other, I think. But
Okay.
for the most part, they're all disconnected.
Yeah, it's very similar to Final Fantasy. That they just
Okay.
this happens and that happens, totally different. They're
They're
jeez.
kind of connected in how their gameplay works, but
Sure, yeah.
other than that,
There's patterns the same way Final Fantasy has patterns, like turn-based or the magic system. But other than
he's
that,
usually going to be called Gil.
yeah, they're pretty much independent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but always different world, different story.
Yeah, I like that idea
Yeah.
because you could always do something new, but it's still familiar to the fans. It's like, oh, a Tales game. Oh yeah, I remember Tales, and it's like, oh yeah, it's slightly different, but same idea, different characters, different setting. It's kind of cool. I like that freedom to be unique, but I also love Castlevania in that there's things that are the same. You know, Dracula's castle and this and that, all the monsters you remember. But anyway, that's another story, another argument. Okay, we're at 5 minutes.
JRPG, but it's not. Its use of sexuality allows it to create characters who we can.
Why
learn from
are
and
you
empathize
using
with,
the
because sexuality wasn't used to
transgender
define
thing?
Kanji, but rather was an aspect of Kanji's life that helped to give depth to his character. I think it's also worth.
It didn't happen though. It's not part of his character.
Yeah, this is all you reading into it.
Projection. Wow. All right.
Are you surprised we got this weird comic character girl that was seeing homosexuality everywhere in every character?
Not to mention, like,
That's
being gay doesn't really add depth to his character either. It's
Yeah.
just superficial.
Yeah, because his internal struggle is not. It is about how his habits and his interests are not what they're supposed to be. So
If Haji were gay, it wouldn't change much about his character.
He'd still like Naoto because he doesn't care whether Naoto is a male or female. He finds her cute. He likes cute things. That's all it is. He doesn't pursue a relationship. He never does.
yeah. The whole gay and trans thing is that portrayed as it's always this immense struggle and so dangerous and everything. Like we are living in the worst of times for it, and especially in the West. And sorry, no, these are the best times for all of these things, and especially in the Western world. At least as long as the Western world still stands. If a certain type of activists wouldn't be tearing it down right now. Because if that falls apart, then things are going to be as shit again as they are in the rest of the world. That's not the Western world. And then you can have your real struggle again, where you really have to fear for your life. Here right now, it's relatively chill. But these people don't have a comparison for the rest of the world. They don't want to look at the rest of the world, because then they would have to admit that other cultures and other races that they seem to be obsessed with are actually quite homophobic and what they call transphobic and all of these horrible, horrible things, and are quite misogynistic. All of the things that they accuse the West of being done way worse and sometimes for real in other countries and cultures. But they don't want to see that. It's all here, it's the worst, because this is where I am. That's how they see it. All the world that exists for these people is what they can see. And so someone looks at them the wrong way, and suddenly it's oh, I'm under threat. They're gonna kill me. Oh, it's the worst to be here in this very luxurious world where I have social services that pay for my roof and my heaters and my running water, and oh my god, I'm so oppressed. Oh, fuck you.
I mean, there are some tribes that kill bald people because they are magic creatures.
Oh yeah, I think and I think albinos in Africa are still one of the. It's not good to be an albino in Africa. Let's say. People think your bones have magic powers, so yeah, make of that what you will.
This is good. Kanji isn't hetero or homosexual. He's Naoto-sexual. Full stop. Okay. I think we all love Naoto in a certain way. She's adorable and brilliant and kind of scary at times because she carries a gun. Yeah. But you know,
I think after all this what you all revealed about the game, I think you hooked me on it. I think I want to play it.
Well,
it's absolutely worth it.
It will
it's,
take. It will
it's
take.
On Steam.
Yeah, so. No. It will take up your life for a good month, like at least a month.
That's good.
Yeah, it's quite a long game, and it's $20 on Steam.
Oh wow, that's perfect. Yeah, fantastic.
20 American. I don't know what it would be.
That's good. Also, dear game developers, please give me hard copies of games. I want stuff on my shelf.
Oh, I agree.
On my shelf, and I want hard copies in case all these weird, dumb, ethereal servers go down one day, and I lose. I don't know, $10,000 worth of games. That's not nice. That's hell.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the only system you can get a hard copy of it on is the PS Vita.
Oh yeah. Wow, jeez.
Well, I mean the PS2 as well, but
if you can find it,
of Persona 4 Golden, and good luck, finding a copy.
That is expensive,
of Persona 4 Vanilla on the PS2.
All those games, even Suikoden series, they're in the $200 range if you could find a listing online. So.
Yeah, but I'm also talking about the future. Give me. If it has to be the special like when in other back in the day you had collector's editions, then I'm fine with if in the future the basic hard copy will be already the collector's edition. I'm fine with that. Maybe throw in a keychain and a sticker. I'm happy. Just want something for my shelf.
Persona 4 Golden was changed a little bit. I don't think the changes are quite as egregious as like the Catherine full body ones, but there are some in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like their version of an update for DLC. They just pack in all these extra characters, extra storylines, extra endings. So you always want to, you want to get Fez, you want to get Golden, you want to get Royal. So it's kind of cheap that the company does that. They don't give you a discount, like I don't know, like $30 or whatever to update. But yeah, it's an awesome update. Like they do it properly. I just wish it was not like it wouldn't cost existing players. That's the only thing I wish it, because that's a bit of a ripoff, I think. But that's their business model. People love it anyway. So it's kind of like watching the extended cut of a movie on DVD.
I did kind of understand paying for Persona 4 Golden because there was a lot of content in it, and I mean, it was like 5 years after the original launch of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's just an odd feeling.
But I felt a lot more justified in my purchase of Golden than I did in my purchase of Persona 5 Royal. Which is not to take too hard a shot at Persona 5 Royal, because I like it. I just don't like it quite as much as the vanilla game.
See, with 4, everything uplifts you. The ending uplifts you. It makes you happy. It's a nice story. In 3, it's depressing. It's like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah, you're not kidding.
And in 5, it's like this mixed bag of like, that's kind of cool, but you're kind of sad. It's like this, I don't know. It's this weird feeling where you're glad everyone's together, but it's still kind of I don't know, saccharine sweet.
In 5, Royal kind of adds a lot onto that kind of thing because it's not just a straight up one person's evil, one person's good story too. It's a very the characters
Dispersed.
are very complexly motivated.
Yeah, it's interconnected and it's kind of it is complex and it doesn't feel as uniform as like P4. Everyone like really cares for each other. Not to say 5 they don't, but you understand it all. You understand who they are, and what they say. I remember the time when Narukami leaves for the first time at the end with the train station. Whoever you have a relationship with speaks up and says, "I'm going to miss you. I really love you," or whatever. And the only thing they do with the other cast is you see this giant exclamation mark on everyone. Like, what? Who is that? And the conversation just keeps going because they're in public. So they figure out, oh, they're with that person now. So I kind of like that. Whereas Rise is always in love with you. It's like, it just doesn't matter what you do. She's always jealous and she's always chasing after you. So I always find that funny.
Oh man, I can't believe we still have another minute of this video.
It's almost, he's probably going to.
Persona 5 the Royal has like a really scripted final boss, but it's very emotional, so it doesn't feel like you're being cheated out of it.
Yeah, that was a weird and
I liked the final boss. I didn't like that the last couple of stages felt I don't know. I didn't like how scripted they were, like finding out that I literally couldn't lose. I don't know. Didn't quite do it for me.
Yeah, I guess.
They always got to throw in. What's the persona? Is it Lucifer or is it the devil? Which one is it?
There's Satan and Lucifer, two different demons in persona.
I think it's Lucifer that is one of the ultimate personas. They always have to bring him into the end somehow in all the stories. I don't know why.
The ultimate persona of the P5 of the P5 protagonist is Satanael.
Oh.
Yes, who's somehow different from Satan and Lucifer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I've never read any of the Gnostic texts, so I'm not familiar with whether or not they're different beings in Gnosticism.
I think it is the case there. I haven't read it either, but I'm a little bit familiar with it. Mostly
Okay.
because I played SMT for so long.
It's supposed to be Samael, but Satanel, I guess, is a Romanization.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. It's always got to be that one. I don't know why. Anyway.
Worth mentioning Naoto Shirogane, another character from the same game. Interestingly enough, Atlas touched on transgender and societal gender issues
no.
here. In Naoto's alternate reality,
Yep,
we learn that
there's
she
that
feels
Naoto's
trapped by her
trans.
body, that she wishes she was a man. The idea of a sex change is even brought up as something she's considered. It's left ambiguous whether she feels this way because of how she's been treated.
No, she deals with that. What are you talking
It's really not left ambiguous, and she's not uncomfortable in her body.
From what you described, she's just looking for means in order to pass for the profession she wants, her greatest wish.
She wants to be a detective, and she can't be as a woman.
Yeah, and if she has to do that, and if she has to become a man, she probably would at some point be as obsessed with it to go through with such an idea, or at least consider it. And that is not. This is the part where the left gets trans wrong. They think that transitioning makes you trans. She's not, as you described, she's not uncomfortable with her body. He's projecting that onto the character.
This is
that would be the dysphoria, but she doesn't have that as you describe it.
I said this before, but this is just her shadow self taking the logical conclusion of what it means to suppress your feelings about being a woman. So, if only I wasn't a woman. And there's this scene on an operating table, and they're gonna like chop her up or whatever, and they stop her. They stop the shadow self, and she comes to terms with her feelings, and she comes to terms with it. She's done. She gets it. She figures it out. She doesn't want to do that.
So if you don't help her,
That's great.
she dies.
So she's essentially confused.
Yes, because she wants two different things. She wants to become a detective, but she also wants to be a woman, and she can't have both.
Her understanding of being a detective is that a detective has to be a guy. I think it's because of movies she watched as a kid or something.
It's a combination of her reading detective novels and seeing detective movies and how all the famous detectives were men, and how hard it is to be a woman in a Japanese police force.
And she's aspiring to the hero image she grew up with.
Yes.
And tries to emulate that 100%.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what it sounds like.
It's kind of cute because it's childish as well. Like her social link, I don't know if you remember her social link, but she's playing that sort of mystery game with her butler, and he's hiding clues, and there's all these mysteries she has to solve, and she makes all these puzzles and games with you. Like her watch is, she can reprogram her watch to detect things, and all this really cool stuff like a kid would do. And even she admits to it. Yeah, this is pretty childish, but this is what I grew up on. So you go through a little bit of her past that way, and the father figure is like, well, my master was concerned about Naoto. That's why I'm watching over her. That's why the butler's there. But he's barely in the story. He's just sort of this guy who's imparting this information. So it comes down to Narukami to follow her along and say, okay, let me help you out, figure the case, even though she's more than capable herself of doing it. But because you're the nice guy, you're the friendly guy everyone can rely on, you go and help her, and she's very thankful. And that's probably where she becomes your friend. It's the same with Kanji and the group as well. They all accept him, as weird and crazy. Hell, they accept Teddy. Teddy's insane. Teddy's this crazy womanizing male. He's just attracted to everything. He wants to hook up with everything. It's kind of weird. So, but he's not a human. He's like a member of the TV land. So,
and I think that's why he's so obsessed with that. Is it's all new to him. So he's kind of.
He has no internal organs. He's just this weird creature no one understands.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And what here the left is doing, and has apparently been doing for more than 10 years, at least 9, but I am pretty sure they've done it for more. Is that the moment you show any interest in the naturally or stereotypically or culturally associated other sex, you are trans. You're gay, or nowadays you are trans. In the case here Extra Credits does both. Kanji is made gay, although he's not, and Naoto is made trans, although she's not. And just because they project all of the things on there that are not there. And this is how they drive people and kids, how they confuse kids into believing they are things they are not. And in the case of trans, drive them into medical procedures they'll regret for sure.
All right, we got a minute left. We're almost done. Hopefully he'll start selling us something, or I don't know, thanking people. Who knows?
Please let there be a 45-second ad at the end of this.
Yeah.
Yes?
Just saw a message from Toasty Danny, who's going into details about the game. Says, guys, look up Naoto's social link and go to part 9 of her event. That's all you need as evidence that this person is lying. So I don't know where to find that. If there's to find screenshots about that, which line that exactly is. But yeah, I guess that would be nice to have on screen.
I'll see if I can find it.
What part did you say?
All right, we can keep going, and then we'll get back to that later.
All right.
Okay.
Fit into and gain respect from a male-dominated society, or whether she's actually wrestling with more fundamental gender confusion. Unfortunately, Naoto enters the story later.
No,
in the
it
game,
doesn't
and we're
leave
left
it
with less
ambiguous.
Exploration of her character. But without her gender struggles, Naoto would have been little more than the tiring, awkward girl character we see.
She is awkward and confused, but she's shy and what?
Yeah, I love that. I love that line. If you remove Naoto's central conflict, she wouldn't be as interesting.
This guy sees things that aren't there. It's getting
No
creepy.
kidding.
Yeah. She wasn't trans. She's not trans. Stop it.
And remember, this is the year extra credits was good.
Oh, really? Jeez.
Oh, there's Toasty then he posted in the Smudcast discussion channel. It's 4 screenshots.
Oh, yeah? Let me check it out. Da-da-da-da.
I just had a thought and I forgot it.
Oh, yeah. I don't need to look at something to cleanse or something to accomplish. Something to change or something to accomplish. I only need to have faith in myself. I finally think I can accept myself that I'm a woman. There you go. See? Boom.
And like I said, even more evidence just at the end of the game. She's dressing herself as a woman now. She's completely fine with it.
Yeah, great.
All right, let's go. Almost done.
Yeah, and it's not gender confusion in that case.
No.
It's something else, and that is a way more nuanced thing than the people like Extra Credits or any other of these obsessed activists can understand. I don't think they can understand
see how
it.
well done these characters are, and they immediately go to the thing that they can grasp. Oh, it must be gender dysphoria. It's like, wait, what? Where?
It must be a simple thing. Oh, they don't even go to gender dysphoria. They just use other things.
So to our understanding,
because they want to get but they want to get rid of gender dysphoria as a concept because it actually ruins their whole narrative that it's all a social construct, because gender dysphoria is a medical biological thing.
Yeah. So to us, if that was in the story, we'd be like, oh, it's gender dysphoria. But they see, she must be trans. She must have inklings of being a guy because, I don't know, whatever they think.
Well, to us who read the story, or as you described it to me, it's just
it's symbolic.
It's there's no gender confusion there. She's not confused about herself. She just wants to be something that she thinks she has to do certain things she doesn't need to do.
All the TV land stuff is purely symbolic. It's over-exaggeration, and it's distorted. It's not clear. It's like, why is the villain the way he is? Oh, okay, there's his distorted version of himself. It's always something weird and creepy.
I mean, if
part of it, they don't quite understand that the TV world is a twisted reflection. They think it's a clear one.
Oh, that is good. That is a good point. That they take I'd call it dream world. That they take that literally, which is a very dangerous thing to do when you talk about metaphors and symbols, because these are manifested metaphors that you're walking through.
Yeah, the whole point is the shadow is a corrupted version of your inner conflict. So it's showing an over-exaggerated version of whatever it is you're struggling with.
Yeah. Is this part of the game, is that an adaptation to Jungian psychology?
Yes, very much so.
Oh god, yeah. This is Jungian psychology, the game. This is like every
okay, I want to play it.
In fact, Persona 1 and 2 have a character that doesn't appear again. His name is Philemon.
Yeah.
He's actually a kind of a spirit guide that Jung said appeared to him in his dreams.
Like imagine getting Pokemon in the form of personified versions of yourself. Like,
I mean, that's why. I mean, the term persona comes from Jungian psychology. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the versions of like from Persona 2 on, it gets like all the designs are awesome. They're space age, they're mythological, they're like a combination of technology and magic. It's all these. There's a chariot green penis which he showed on the screen a few minutes ago. You know, that's the famous. Oh, it's Persona. They're green penis monsters. You know, they always make jokes about that. But there's so many good designs, and they start from. I think Persona 2 is where they get really cool, And 3 and 4, there's so many, so they have to make them generic and streamlined. But 2 is where, because goth, space age, cool shit. It's so neat. I love it.
Yeah, and since you mentioned, since this is this social link, it's called, yes. Since that is such a big part of the game, and I don't know if you've ever been through a really, really, really stressful, tough time with shallow sleep, you may have had more dreams during that time, because due to the lack of really deep sleep, you do not forget the dreams. Usually you have about 5 dream phases in the night, and after that comes the deep sleep phase, in which the dream memories are erased. You only remember dreams when you wake up during that time, or when you simply do not sleep deep enough. The point is, during such times, you can the dreams you have, they seem to not make much sense, or the images seem random, the elements and symbols of it seem random. But the interesting part about all of that is that most of these things do have meaning. You're just not really easily aware of it. This has been mapped out over a long time, what some of these things mean. There are the basic cultural symbols, and then you go further into what is your very personal stuff from your life that your brain associates with something. Because the subconscious, it's not really articulated verbal speech or writing. That's not how that works. It's more it processes the thoughts of the day in associations and metaphors. Therefore, when you see a dream, you see these weird things interacting, weird stories happening that don't seem to make sense or can be mapped onto what's going on in your life, unless you have some idea on how to decode all of this, and then the things suddenly make some sense. Or when you get a general idea of what happened in the dream out, instead of the literal things that happen, like being in a forest and encountering a black bear that is also zombified, and that is a very special thing. It seems to make no sense, but unless you figure out what these elements mean, or when you have dreams about the ocean and things that look like blue whales, if you describe them as a bullet list, because in the dream they usually have completely wrong proportions and everything. But if you just take the attributes down and tell someone the adjectives of how you describe the creature you saw, the other person will say, oh, that sounds like a blue whale, for example. And what this is you can't take it literally what happens, because that makes no sense in the dream. It will mislead you. It will mislead your interpretation. You have to understand the metaphor of what's going on. And these dreamscapes, the social link, seems to be exactly that. It's very strange and exaggerated things that you have to understand metaphorically only, not literally. Am I getting this somewhat right?
It's interpretive. Yeah, you got it.
The shadow appearances, right? It's they appear in the TV. The social links are actually just your relationship with that character. Just the terminology is a bit wrong.
Okay, yeah, I don't know the exact terms, but I mean this.
Although
this
they do,
world, this parallel dream world
show up in the dream world later on. Although that's kind of the context is a major spoiler.
Yeah, it starts off as this folk story of, if you look at someone in the TV room at 12 at midnight or something, their face will appear and da-da-da-da-da. And that's what ends up happening. And then they record that and say, oh, did you guys, like, they call them each up rather quickly. Say, hey, did you catch that? Who was that? That was Risei. Like, oh my God, it's Risei. You're right. And they're going to figure out a plan of how to get to Risei's shadow and talk to Risei and say, oh my God, Risei, what's all going on in your life that you're going into porn or whatever the hell her story, I can't remember what her story was. So.
Yeah, Risei must actually want to be a stripper based on this video.
It's something like that. Yeah, I don't remember.
Like based on extra credits logic, Risei is actually an exhibitionist.
Oh god, yeah, probably. Jeez, oh my god.
The TV world is basically a manifestation of the mass subconscious of everyone in the town.
Yeah, that's right. I'd agree.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the collective subconscious mind of everyone.
Interesting.
Which is
It's
a running.
There's a lot in the Persona series.
Yeah.
Yeah, every version of Persona does a different flavor of that idea. The Midnight Hour, the TV world. What's Persona 5? Is it the?
They call it the metaverse, and then the collective unconscious is Mementos.
Yep.
Which manifests as the Tokyo subway system.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love it. It's so psychedelic. It's really neat.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right, we're almost done.
There's to the topic that I brought up is in the chat. Just I found this very interesting bit. Blueby Blonde Hearts says that also there's the fact that an actual trans person from Japan explained why Naoto wasn't trans and a lot of the cultural nuisances that go on with the character. But of course, the woke fools on Tumblr accused that person of being transphobic, because of course they did. Yeah, I get a lot of that kind of stuff too. Because these people, they say someone is trans, and then that has to be the case, and they do this with real life people, they do this with teenagers, and at the same time they say, oh no, we're not pushing anyone into being trans at all. But they're doing it all the fucking time. This is the danger about this ideology and these activists.
Like you say a lot, it is a lot of projection, and a lot of it is they were raised in
they're obsessed with it. They're obsessed with it.
Culture, and they push that culture onto other cultures that don't quite line up.
Yeah, it's their little extremist and delusional magical thinking subculture.
All right, here's Coolman229. Shadow Risei was going to strip naked publicly, which was a warped manifestation of Risei's desire for people to see the real her.
No, it's because she wants to be a stripper.
Oh, that must be it, yeah.
She's an exhibitionist. I'm sorry, Coolman229. That's just how it is.
Your wife who
It's a lot less subtle than you think it is. It's really that in your face.
I have no idea of the world of idols in Japan. It could be a thing, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, because part of it is, because Risei is an idol.
Yeah, and she gives up being an idol, and she realizes she misses that world, and
a part of it is idols do often have to have a very, very different public image that's based entirely around what the entertainment company thinks the public wants to see.
That's why a lot of idols, they don't date at all.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, for a long time, they weren't even allowed to date. So, again, I just can't get over the fact that this is supposed to be when extra credits was good, because this is not a good video.
Yeah, have you when I was a kid, I liked the Planeteers. I think it's called in English. Because the general setup is interesting. You get a bunch of people from different cultures, which makes them kind of interesting because they rub against each other, and they have these magic rings with magic powers, and then you have the douchey Superman that they summon. And I like the whole Gaia idea that you have this mother spirit of the planet. That was kind of neat. And then I just watched that, and it seemed okay. If you rewatch this now, holy shit, this is full of social justice propaganda.
Oh yeah, I mean it was made by
and really ham-fisted.
yeah that show was made by it was called Captain Planet over here. It was made by
that was the German name too.
Yeah, Ted Turner was the creator of the show, who is a famous he's a billionaire entertainment figure over here. He owns or owned Turner Broadcasting, which owns a lot of media companies. And he's very much an environmentalist, so the show was meant to be basically a green party, essentially propaganda type show. So that was intentional, yeah.
Yeah, and it had some really bad ideas in it that were not well thought out, and that like this whole you shouldn't have children. We shouldn't. It went into the direction of we shouldn't have children because for one child in the Western world, 8 children in Africa can eat, like that kind of stuff. And without any other context, any other explanations, and it just gives you a guilt trip that when I grow up I better not have children. That's the message that comes with it. And I'm pretty sure that I bought into some of these things when I was a kid. But as a kid I couldn't see that, and it's probably more less extreme. But this is the same thing with the when you said that this was the time when extra credits was supposed to be good, and now we look back at it, and because we are more sensitive to all of these patterns of the activists, of the ideologues, of the propaganda, we can now see this stuff more clearly in older works where it was more subtle.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a pretty liberal area, and I remember as a kid when we were learning about the rise of feminism, there was a small paragraph about how some women were opposed to feminism, and it was kind of painted to us as, why would a woman oppose freedom?
Because feminism is not freedom. Strong, independent women don't need feminism, which is why feminism actually hates strong, independent women. Feminism likes Mary Sues. Because Mary Sues don't need to improve. When you think of yourself as a Mary Sue, which is quite emotionally immature, you're not going to develop any further. And you keep being dependent on the ideology, on the cult, while thinking yourself strong when you actually are not, when you are actually dependent. It's quite a sinister mind trick, if you ask me.
All right. Almost 40, 45 seconds. Yeah, okay. Let's see how fast he wraps this one up.
In so many RPGs. So should all games work these sorts of issues into their characters? Definitely not. That would be pretty ridiculous. But does a well-thought-out use of diversity improve games and allow us to explore narratives we'd otherwise be unable to delve into? Yes, it does. Thanks for watching.
Play more Japanese games.
Seriously,
That's all. Just play more Japanese games, because that stuff is there. It's always been there, if you will. And just... But at the same time, the SJWs want to get a hold of Japanese developers in order to push their propaganda into it and twist these stories into the flat and boring and in part repulsive propaganda they want them to be, because they don't even understand the nuance. And we've seen that happen with Sony when they dragged Sony over to California. Now Sony's become this hyper-censorious bullshit.
Noticing the line at the end too, they just outright say diversity is just an inherent improvement to the writing, even though it doesn't improve the writing at all. It's just diverse now.
Yeah, they say, definitely not every game should have it, but it definitely improves every game.
Yeah.
Sounds weird.
Not every game needs it, but your game is better if it has it in it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It doesn't need to be there, but your game will be better putting sexual diversity in your game will make it better, even though there isn't any in Persona 4.
They could have kept it non-sexual with all the characters and just had a secondary or tertiary conflict with Naoto and Kanji, and you'd still like the characters. They'd still be interesting enough for you to play along and get to know them. So it's such a simple footnote to the end of their social link or their chapter. It's like, oh, that's cool, but it doesn't change much. It doesn't affect. I don't like Kanji anymore because he's potentially gay. It's like, I don't know. He's likable. I like the problem he has. It's not the greatest problem in the world. It's not the most conflicted one, but it hurts him. He cares about it. It's his problem. And it could have been anything. It could have been a childhood trauma. It could have been death of a loved one. It could have been all these other possible ideas for why a person has problems. So a guy liking cute things and manifesting in this exaggerated sexual way is like, yeah, it's cool. But it could have manifested in another way. Like a bully he had as a kid. And he becomes the bully. He has to overcome that aspect of himself because he's kind of a rebellious guy anyway, and he beats people up sometimes with chairs. So, you could do all these things with characters so long as they're identifiable and you can understand why. So, sexuality or not, little difference to these stories. It does work with Naoto because she's in the closet about these things and she wants to come out, saying, I am a woman. And with Kanji, it's more like, I just want friends. I want to fit in. I want to do well in school. I want to get on with my life. So, anyway, I like talking about this stuff because it's one of my favorite JRPGs, or the Persona series as a whole. I think 3 was sort of, got it to the mainstream, and 5 made it popular. But 4 is where it's like, just everything's just sort of, just right for me. 5 is a bit too flashy, I think. It's a bit stylized. I kind of like the rural Japan sort of setting, and the Chad Urakami just going around solving everyone's problems, being nice to everyone, trying his best. But those are my tastes. Sorry?
I'm one of those people who preferred 3 to 4. But,
oh, yeah.
I mean, I just like the darker tone, and that's just my preference.
Oh, it's great. I love the tone. It feels a bit big. I don't know why. The world feels huge.
Because, Tartarus, is really enormous.
The dorm is huge. The school is, like, everything feels huge. I'm like, I'm not gonna get through this game. It's so big, and it takes so long to save. I'm like, oh, I don't know why I feel that way with 3 though. But
I like 3. I don't know. I think it's kind of oddly paced. There's just like kind of long stretches where nothing happens.
It's a bit creepy. There's some scenes in there you're like, should I be talking to this kid with the scarf who wants to kill me? Or like, what is happening? I don't like this. It gets a little weird. With 4, it's always positive. It always feels like, yeah, this is weird. And just the Golden brings out the weird plot reveal at the start there. The gas station. You're like, really? That's okay. All right, fine. With 5, it's internal strife with the Velvet Room. I didn't quite grasp that scenario with Igor. I was like, what the hell is going on there? So I have to rewatch that. But there's always a little twist.
5's whole Igor thing is kind of reminiscent of what happened in Innocent Sin, where Nyarlathotep and Philemon had the deal. And that's kind of the whole premise of the game is, will humanity accept destruction, or will they have hope?
Right. Yeah, no, these are great games. They're a bit on the nose at times, but lots of depth, lots of characterization. Long games though. Like, these will take at least a month, and I mean a month of playing every day. For hours. It's not just a little, I'll pick it up for an hour. You'll forget stuff. Stuff will keep happening. You're like, what day is it? What am I doing today? Do I have to study? Do I have to exercise? Or do I have to practice at band class or whatever the hell the
that's the parts that annoy me when games have these princess maker mechanics in them.
Oh, they're not as mathematical. They're very streamlined. So, but they do get a bit annoying. Like my guts are not high enough, so I can't pass this part of the game yet. So you have to come back to it later. But there is New Game Plus, I believe. I think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, New Game Plus, your social stats don't reset.
Yeah, that's good. Whew. Okay, guys.
That was a heck of a video.
Yeah, man. 2 hours and a half of a 6.5 hour video for extra credits. But thanks, guys. That was enough. I think you want to call it a night and take it easy and have a drink or whatever you do. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks, as always, for Wisp for popping on. And thanks, Matthias, for jumping on as well.
I'm trying.
Hello.
And thank you, of course, to Nick and Sir Axelot for popping in because you're Persona fans. I'm not the only guy here to talk about Persona, so it's always nice. Keep my
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I should make a Persona. I should make a Persona channel so we could talk about it in there. So
I mean, not just Persona.
I will make it after this episode on the Discord server.
Okay.
All right.
Atlas, maybe just a Shin Megami channel. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, thanks, guys. Sorry?
I'd be happy to come around to cover anything, not just this, but I had a good time at this. So
all right, thank you.
Yeah, no, don't worry. You got the auxiliary role on the Discord. That means you are a guest.
Neat.
Yeah. Was great of you two being on, and Matthews too.
Yeah, it was a good couple hours.
Yeah, I'm sorry it's late here.
Good talking to you guys.
All right,
I mean,
guys.
it's not that late for me where I am, but
yeah.
Although I do have work
Never
early in
late
the
for
morning,
me.
so
It's
Yeah.
getting close to 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right,
Let me
guys.
bet the next video is Xenoblade 2's boobs are too big.
Oh yeah, really?
oh no,
Whole video about boobs? Oh my god.
oh boy,
Yeah, they're mammophobic. The W's are mammophobic. I tell you.
Well, best girl is always Naoto, so take what you will. But her boobs are just fine. So anyway, thanks, guys. Have yourself a great night. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
all right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.